Wall Street closes higher overnight. The S&P 500 sets a new high for 2023 and the Dow gains for the third straight day, while the Nasdaq too adds around 1%, on track to record its sixth straight week of gains. The Eurozone slips into a recession. Revisions to growth figures show GDP falling by 0.1% in the first quarter of 2023 and the last 3 months of 2022 as consumer spending shrinks on higher costs of living. And China's CPI inflation for May comes in at 0.2%, in line with expectations. Stocks in Asia trade largely higher. The SGX Nifty also signals a positive start for the Indian market. Oil corrects but bears some losses after the U.S. government denies reports of a nuclear deal with Iran. Brent slips over 3% but recovers to trade around $75 a barrel. And sources say the Canada Pension Fund will sell 1.66% stake in Kotak Bank at a 5% discount in a deal worth $754 million. SBI's board will meet today to consider fundraise through debt for this financial year, while Hindustan Aeronautics Board is set to consider a stock split at its board meet on the 27th of June. Hi guys, good morning and welcome to Power Breakfast. I'm Pavitra Parekh. Those are the headlines that we have this Friday morning. There's a lot to track in terms of individual stories, but first up, let's just take a look at the global market action, because the handover, like we were just pointing out, has been quite positive, and you have most of the Asian markets, actually all of the Asian markets now barring just the Hang Seng, which are trading in the green. So the Hang Seng is seeing just some minor losses, but across the board, otherwise, it's looking quite good. What's faring the best this morning is clearly the Nikkei markets, 1.8% higher there. So it's a 560-point up move that we're seeing on the Japanese index. The Taiwanese markets on your screen also doing quite well, 0.8% higher there. And for the rest of the markets, you have Kospi also, which is seeing similar gains, 0.9% over there. And otherwise, it's, gains of around 0.3 to 0.4%. Hang Seng, the only market which is seeing just a tiny bit of red. The SGX Nifty will come up for you. It's pretty much at the high point right now, suggesting that the start is going to be around 37 points in the green. So that's what's going on in Asia now. By the way, in terms of data that came through, like we were pointing out, May consumer prices have gone up by 0.2%. This is actually bang in line with what was expected as well. And producer prices saw a fall of 4.6%. This is year over year. And what was estimated was a decline of 4.3%. So that's an important data to track as well coming out of China. But let's also talk about the US now, because Wall Street ended yesterday's trading session with some broad-based gains. So the Dow surged 170 points. The S&P 500 ended 0.6% higher. And the best performer was the Nasdaq index. Once again, it saw a gain of over 1%. In fact, the Nasdaq is also on track, like we were telling you, for another winning week. So that would make it 6 straight weeks of gains for the Nasdaq index. By the way, Fed's June policy meeting is also next week. So that is the key cue that we're watching now in terms of the global markets. We now have CNBC Seema Modi here with us to wrap up all of the action from the US market. Seema.
Markets ending the day higher, with stocks closing higher across the board and continuing to build on their recent gains. The Dow finished in positive territory, closing up triple digits, with Boeing lifting the index higher. The S&P 500 ended over 0.5% higher, with tech and consumer discretionary sectors leading the way. Tech-heavy Nasdaq was the big winner, finishing the day more than 1% higher. The number of Americans applying for unemployment benefits last week rose to its highest level since October of 2021. The Labor Department reported that 261,000 people applied for first-time jobless benefits. That's higher than the number Wall Street was expecting. And General Motors is planning to invest more than $500 million in a plant in Texas to prepare for production of its next-generation large SUVs. The Detroit automaker said the investment will include new equipment in Arlington Assembly's body shop and general assembly areas. That's what's happening here in the U.S. Back over to you in Mumbai.
All right, Seema, thanks a lot for getting us all of that action from Wall Street. In fact, ahead of the Fed decision next week, let's also listen into some commentary. This comes in from former Atlanta Fed President Dennis Lockhart, as well as Citi's equity strategist Scott Cronin. So let's listen in to that, those comments.
I don't think they do yet. I think we're living in a 4.5% world of inflation. There are some signs that can be grasped of declining inflation, but it's very gradual, and I think the committee still has a big challenge, particularly with a 2% target. The question of credit tightening is something that's on the mind of members of the committee, and they would like to see more evidence that it's happening, particularly if they're going to treat credit tightening as some kind of a trade-off with with further hikes. But overall, I think they can support a skip.
Where are we going to go with the Fed in terms of its ultimate goal in getting inflation down? You still need to see some pullback in broader consumption trends. I don't know that the earnings setup for the S&P is quite prepared for that just yet. We're looking at a peaking Fed funds, whether it's this June meeting or July. I think the confidence for most investors is that we're closer to the peak than the bottom. And so what that does is give you room to begin to stretch out your duration discussion. But we're probably still looking at a higher rate for longer backdrop over the next couple of years.
All right, that is some important opinion coming in on how the Fed could really move at its next policy decision. The decision will be out on the 14th of June. So, of course, that is something that we're watching for. But with that, let's also bring you the final update on our global market wrap this morning. European markets ended Thursday's trading session mixed. So we had the French CAC index, which was up 19 points. Like you can see, the DAX gained around 29 points. And the FTSE did close with some minor losses, around 25 points lower. However, the real big cue from the region is that the Eurozone has entered into a recession in the first quarter of the year. According to revised estimates, remember the 20-member bloc had contracted growth in the last quarter of 2022 as well, and the pronouncement was adjusted down after Germany and Ireland both made a downward revision to their growth rates. Remember, this environment will continue to, of course, pose a challenge for the European Central Bank, which is due to meet next week as well, and is widely expected to take another hike in rates by 25 basis points. That's what the markets have priced in for now. So that's everything that we're tracking from the Eurozone region. But with that, we are going to get into a short break. When we return, we're going to talk about how all of these overnight cues really impact our own markets and some of the domestic cues that you should track ahead of today's market open.
Forget my statistics. Wins, losses. My man of the matches. My greatest evers.
Show me hope, show me faith. Take
Forget my interviews, my sound bites.
fire, show me grace. Now you're
My every rise,
speaking.
every fall. What I am has no bearing on what I'm about to be. My account starts today. HSBC, the springboard of your story that's about to be written. Start your account today.
Who said you need 4 doors for your family?
Just cut the crap, man.
The surprisingly spacious MG Comet EV, the no-nonsense car.
अभी और कितने चक्कर लगाने पड़ेंगे सर जी?
आप इतनी सी बात क्यों नहीं समझते सर जी? आप हमारा ध्यान रखो, हम आपका ध्यान रखेंगे। 9501 200 200 ये तो
एंटी करप्शन एक्शन लाइन।
मैडम जी आप बेकार में परेशान हो रहे हो। मैं कराता हूँ ना 2 दिन में आपका काम। आप तो बस चढ़ा देना, घर बैठे आ जाएगा आपका लाइसेंस। आपको ड्राइविंग टेस्ट की भी जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी।
पक्का?
पक्का जी पक्का।
तो आपने एक नंबर लिखिए, जब बन जाएगा तो उस पे कॉल करिएगा। 9501 200 200 एंटी करप्शन एक्शन लाइन।
अगर आपसे भी कोई रिश्वत मांगे तो कॉल करें 9501 200 200। एंटी करप्शन एक्शन लाइन से पिछले 1 साल में अब तक 300 से ज्यादा भ्रष्टाचारी गिरफ्तार हो चुके हैं। पंजाब में रिश्वत लेने वालों की अब खैर नहीं।
पंजाब के लोगों को ये संदेश देना चाहता हूँ, पंजाब को भ्रष्टाचार मुक्त बनाना हमारा वादा ही नहीं, गारंटी है।
ये झुमके, ये हार, ये कंगन तुम्हारी नजाकत से खनकते हैं, तुम्हारी मुस्कान से चमकते हैं, तुम्हारे रूप के श्रृंगार की चाहत में बने ये अलंकार। Vivaha by Senko Golden Diamonds.
Keeping up with the pace of life is not easy. To find the perfect balance, we need to savor the pause. See? It never ends.
Hey guys, welcome back. You're still tuned into Power Breakfast, and let's now talk about all of the cues that you should track as we get into this trading session. Our research team is here with the trade setup. So Reema, Mangalam and Surbi all join me now to prep you up for this trading session. Guys, a very good morning to all of you. Reema, things really changed quite a bit at the end of the session yesterday, but take us through everything we should watch today.
Yes, the hawkish pause by the RBI did take everyone by surprise, and that's the reason why the Indian market sold off in yesterday's trade. But that said, we're still, broadly above the important support levels for our markets. So despite the fall that we've seen, it's not that we've breached any important support. So the 20-day moving average should be on your radar on the way down, 18,431. That said, the global picture is far more upbeat. So S&P 500, as you pointed out, had the highest close, the best close in 2023. The Nasdaq gained close to about 1%. Broadly, Asian markets are higher in this trade. Again, the hopes that Fed is going to pause at the upcoming meeting have gone up after the US initial jobless claims were much higher than what the street was anticipating, suggesting that the US labor market is softening. In terms of flows, you had DII selling 405 crore in the cash market, while the FIs net bought about 212 crore in the cash market. But today we might have very large volumes because of that Kotak Mahindra Canadian Pension Fund block deal, which is expected. So yesterday volumes were on the muted side, but today you should keep your eye on the kind of volumes. Back to you.
All right, Reema, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues. Surbi is also here to fill us in with all of the stock-specific action. Surbi, the biggest, perhaps, like Reema was pointing out, Kotak Bank this morning.
That's right, Pavitra. So first on my radar is obviously Kotak Mahindra Bank. The Canadian Pension Fund, our sources say, is going to sell 1.6% stake in the bank out of the 4.34% they hold in the company. Next is Aether Industries. The company signs a licensing agreement with Saudi Aramco to commercialize the Converge polyol technologies. Hindustan Aeronautics, the company is going to consider a stock split on June 27th. Tata Power, the renewable arm, gets a letter of award to set up hybrid renewable power project for Tata Steel. And lastly, NHPC, the company's unit NHDC, was allotted a pump hydro storage project in Madhya Pradesh.
Okay, Surbi, thanks a lot for bringing us all of the details on these individual stories. We're going to track all of these stocks in the trading session today. Finally, it's over to Mangalam, who's looking at all of the cues from the futures and options space. Hi, Mangalam.
Good morning. So yesterday we came so close, yet so far from the record high once again, right? Just within 100 points of the record high, and thereafter we saw a bit of a sell-off. 145 points from the highs of trade after the RBI policy, and the Nifty Bank as well closed below that 44,000 mark, and that was on account of the weekly options expiry as well. But the good part is that after 3 days of non-stop selling in our cash markets, the FIs have gone into 3 days of non-stop buying. So June 6, June 7 and June 8, there have been purchases of close to around 2,000 crores in the cash market. But yesterday there was some pullback in the F&O space. FIs sold about 442 crores in index futures, and they added about 10,000 short contracts and about 5,500 long contracts, as a result of which their long-short ratio is now at a bit of an even keel, 48% long versus 52% shorts as well. Now, with the RBI policy done, everything is dependent on what happens in the US FOMC meet on June 13th and 14th, where 72% of the street is pricing in a chance of pause. So let's see whether the market stays in a range until then as well. The SGX Nifty is indicating a positive start. But if you just take a look at the way the options are moving, yesterday, the fact that we sold off from the day's high, we saw a lot of writing at the 18,700 call. for a premium of 80 rupees, telling you 18,780 on the way up could be a bit of a resistance. On the way down, however, 18,600 would be an important support because we are seeing an equal amount of writing in the 18,700 put as well. So what does this basically mean? The good part is that the Nifty range has moved higher from 18,400 to 18,700 to around 18,500 to 18,700. So rather, from 18,400 to 18,600 to 18,400 to 18,500 to 18,700, a 100-point move on the way up. On the way up, also watch out for yesterday's high as the SGX Nifty opens, 18,777. If we cross that, then maybe we have another shot at 18,887, which is a record high. A couple of stocks I'm watching out for. Kotak Mahindra Bank yesterday saw a fair amount of short build-up ahead of this bulk deal, so we'll keep an eye out on this. And the second one is HAL. A lot of long positions added on that stock. The board meets today to consider a stock split.
All right, Mangalam, thanks a lot for getting us all of those cues from the futures and options space as well. But with that, let's also talk about the big news yesterday, which is that the Reserve Bank of India had held rates for the second consecutive meeting this financial year. Now, the unexpectedly hawkish policy deals somewhat of a blow to rate cut hopes, with India's top bankers now quite divided on the possibility of a rate cut in this year. That's in 2023. So let's listen in to what some of the top bankers had to tell us.
I want to understand from you, do you take away from the commentary a more hawkish stance than the market was expecting?
Yeah, I would say so. But having said that, it all depends on how the monsoon is. And if we see a good monsoon, then clearly we'll see a little bit of the food inflation, etc. coming off. And hopefully, then we might see one rate cut by December.
One rate cut by December. So you're in the camp that believes we're likely to see still the possibility of a rate cut in this calendar year. Kaushik?
I think coming out quite clearly, at least the way we see it now, is that the MPC will need to come with a couple of cases where they will probably talk about liquidity to be controlled and let go, to give a sign to the market before they do the rate cut. So I think I'm probably in the camp, like Mr. Tiwari said, of probably the financial year, not the calendar year, could even slip into April.
Could even slip into April. Yes, some of our respondents to our poll do seem to suggest that as well. Mr. Kumar, what's your expectation?
No, I think instead of, say, a rate cut, what we need to see when the situation is going to improve at the ground. And situation at the ground would be more in terms of the inflation, because they are not going to compromise in terms of inflation going up, and there would be rate cut. So I think as long as the inflation would remain elevated, we don't see any possibility of the rate cut. And the inflation would be definitely dependent this time on the monsoon, but also in terms of the supply chain. What happens in the international, say, markets. And if there are, say, recession around the world, if the demands would be low, and there would be issues in terms of raw material prices, and if the inflation is not coming down, I think we don't see the rate cuts coming. So at least not in this calendar year, but hopefully if it starts happening in the financial year, I think that would be very good.
All right, very interesting chat there after the big RBI decision yesterday. But with that, we are going to get into a short break now. On the other side, we're going to shift focus and talk all about the commodities. There's been a lot of action there overnight, so we'll bring you up to speed in just a bit.
Watch industry leaders dive deep into India's big consumption story, new era, new challenges surrounding the retail sector.
The one big theme for us when we talk about retail and consumer is that, are we going to be a national business? Are we going to be a local business?
We are integrally tied with domestic consumption. We are integrally tied with the growth of GDP.
Tune into PwC and CNBC TV 18 presents CEO Dialogues on the 10th of June at 6 p.m.
Keeping up with the pace of life is not easy. To find the perfect balance, we need to savor the pause. See? It never ends.
नई कार खरीदने से पहले एको चेक करें और 36,000 तक बचाएं।
What if you could get your goods to the right place at the right time all the time?
With IBM Consulting, AI-powered software can help automate your supply chain so products can be ordered, produced, and delivered more efficiently. What will you create? IBM. Let's create.
अभी और कितने चक्कर लगाने पड़ेंगे सर जी?
आप इतनी सी बात क्यों नहीं समझते सर जी? आप हमारा ध्यान रखो, हम आपका ध्यान रखेंगे।
ओह।
9501-200-200 ये तो
एंटी करप्शन एक्शन लाइन।
मैडम जी आप बेकार में परेशान हो रहे हो। मैं कराता हूँ ना 2 दिन में आपका काम। आप तो बस चढ़ा देना, घर बैठे आ जाएगा आपका लाइसेंस। आपको ड्राइविंग टेस्ट की भी जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी। पक्का जी पक्का।
तो आपने एक नंबर लिखे, जब बन जाएगा तो उस पे कॉल करिएगा
9501-200-200
एंटी करप्शन एक्शन लाइन।
अगर आपसे भी कोई रिश्वत मांगे तो कॉल करें 9501-200-200। एंटी करप्शन एक्शन लाइन से पिछले 1 साल में अब तक 300 से ज्यादा भ्रष्टाचारी गिरफ्तार हो चुके हैं। पंजाब में रिश्वत लेने वालों की अब खैर नहीं।
पंजाब के लोगों को ये संदेश देना चाहता हूँ, पंजाब को भ्रष्टाचार मुक्त बनाना हमारा वादा ही नहीं, गारंटी है।
खुल जा, ओपन खुल जा डिमसम, खुल जा दरवाजा, खुल जा। चाहिए सोना तो इतना हैसल क्यों लेना? माई डिजी गोल्ड ऐप फ्रॉम सेंको गोल्ड एंड डायमंड। सोना खरीदो, बेचो या रिडीम करो, कभी भी कहीं भी इंस्टेंटली। डाउनलोड माई डिजी गोल्ड ऐप नाउ।
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Power Breakfast, and a lot of the Asian markets seem to have given up their gains. So Hang Seng is absolutely flat right now. So that is actually pretty much the same. The Nikkei index has come off over 120 points right now. Shanghai trades both in the red, seeing cuts of around 0.1 to 0.2%. But there's been a significant fall from the high. So do keep that on your radar. In terms, this is the Shanghai and Straits markets that I'm talking about. These ones are still holding up in the green. But let's also talk about the commodity space now. Manisha joins us to fill us in with all of the action. Manisha, there seems to be a lot that has gone down in the commodity space overnight.
Oh, well, yes. But I'll start with a gainer, Pavitra, and I'll start with gold and silver prices because we have seen gains here. While other asset classes are seeing a bit of a pressure, the money really seems to be flying into the safe haven, which is gold and silver. So we saw 1% of gains in gold. Silver is trading at a 4-week highs right now. The slightly weak US dollar, higher than expected initial jobless claim seems to be supporting gold buying. Also, the markets are clearly now looking at the US inflation data. That's on June 13th. And then the US Fed meeting on June 14th. You also have the European Central Bank meeting next week, which also could see a rate hike, and that is where the cues are coming in from. Well, yes, the other metals haven't done so well. The Brent crude prices, to begin with, have seen nearly 3% of a decline overnight. Metal prices also are trading quite flat right now, barring copper, which has seen second week of gains coming in. The prices have now gained nearly 5% from a 6-month low that we saw in the previous month itself. The fall in inventories, surge in cancel warrants, all of that seems to be supporting copper. There is bullish trades also coming in for steel, iron ore. These are a few metals which are trading in the positive.
Okay, Manisha, thanks a lot for filling us in with all of that action. But with that, let's also move on to the world of sport now. India is in a tough spot in the World Test Championship finals, losing 5 wickets for 155 runs after Australia posted a total of 469 in the first innings. The Indian top order collapsed against Australia's pace attack before Ravindra Jadeja and Ajinkya Rahane built a 71-run partnership, which ended when Nathan Leon dismissed the all-rounder. At the end of this second day, India trailed Australia by 318 runs with Rahane and Bharat at the crease. So that is where things stand right now. And of course, hoping for the best as far as the WTC final really goes. But with that, we're going to have to wind down on this edition of Power Breakfast with the news that Asia is quite mixed. The SGX Nifty, however, holds up. It is 38 points in the green. Thank you very much for tuning in. We have Bazaar Morning Call after this short break.